Welcome back, guys. Um, Power rankings, week 13, going into the final week of the regular season. Um, had I won last week, would it have made this week like kind of a lot more entertaining across the board? Yeah, kind of devalues the Caleb and Moss game, but you know, whatever. Maybe I didn't want to win. Who knows? Um, but there's still plenty at stake here, guys. Plenty at stake. So let's just get right into these rankings, I guess, right? Um, Number 10 is Connor. He's eliminated. Not really going to get into, you know, too much about the eliminated teams because who cares? So Connor's number 10. Number 9 is Liam. You know, they played each other last week. It was the toilet bowl. Liam won. Congrats. They're both eliminated, so we'll forget about them. Um, Now we're out of eliminated teams, which I should go back and I don't know if there's a way for me to look at this, but I don't know if there's ever been a year that going into the last week of the season, there's 8 teams still in play. Normally it's like, you know, by the last week, the playoffs are pretty much set, or maybe there's like, 2 teams that could swap, but, you know, there's 4 spots clinched. There's 4 teams that could, take the last 2 spots. So number 8 is Carter. Now, oof, yikes. Carter, dare I say, sold his season. Now, the JT trade was clearly brutal. Had he not done that, he would, he'd probably have 7 wins right now if he didn't do that. But instead, he has 5. And he's fighting for his life. Now, Carter, unfortunately, obviously needs to win. Like, if you're not in playoffs this week, it's a must win. But Carter kind of needs a lot more than just a win. But we'll kind of get into the scenarios, the doomsday scenarios, you know, towards the end of this video. But so Carter is number 8. There was a trade between him and Evans that I do think helps Carter this specific week. After that, I don't really know. But this specific week, I think it was a beneficial trade. Um, but yeah, I mean, Carter's at 8. Um, Number 7 is Jake. Um, Jake, I mean, this fall off kind of needs to be studied, and it'll probably go down in league history as like one of the great what ifs. What if Jake's team didn't fall off, in week 9 or 10 or whatever it was? Because there was a time, and it wasn't too long ago, that Jake had an argument where on paper he looked like maybe the scariest team in the league, and then literally since that moment, it's just gone straight downhill. So, um, yeah, I mean, now Jake just needs to win. All he needs to do, he's built up enough points over the year that a win should get him in. But at this point, it's like, I mean, if it's starting to look like if you put up 100 points against Jake, you're guaranteed to win. So, Jake's really got to motivate the guys this week, but he's number 7. Number 6, now this one hurts because it's similar. It's Dan. It's somebody who, you know, earlier in the year, he was kind of like like the team everyone could root for. It was like it's kind of like the Patriots in real life right now. Like, I feel like everybody kind of likes the Pats right now. Now when we keep dominating, they probably won't again. But in the dynasty days, everyone hated us. But right now, we're kind of like the sweetheart, and that was Dan. Dan started so bad, and then kind of turned the season around. Went on a huge win streak, was knocking off the top guys, but have things kind of come back to reality a little bit? Is the Linsanity run over? It might be. Um, Sad to say, but it might be. Um, Dan, he, he plays Carter this week, so obviously he needs to win that to have a shot. But the problem with Dan is his points aren't super high up there. So similar to Carter, it's like he needs some other stuff to happen. But he's obviously in win now mode. But kind of Dan and Jake are kind of on the same wavelength these last few weeks. Like, not only are they losing, they're losing ugly. All right. I mean, a lot of people want to talk about me losing. At least I don't, it's not ugly. I just lose close games. But yeesh. And so speaking of me, number 5 is myself. Probably my lowest ranking of the year. Now, some would say that's not good. We're a week out of playoffs and it's your lowest ranking ever. I think we all know where I stand when it comes to my team. We're a process over, results kind of team. So I'm just going to keep rocking with 4 of the best players you could ask for in fantasy being on my team. And, I guess we'll see what happens. But, we lost a heartbreaker to Cole this week. Did I ever imagine a world where it's JSN that cost us the week? I mean, nobody played great for me, but I don't think I got 20 points out of anybody, which for my team, that's not good. I normally get multiple guys giving me 20. But to lose by 7 or 8 points and JSN had 2 catches for 23 yards, that stings a little bit because I could have never imagined JSN doing that to me. But, he'll be disciplined this week at practice, and it is what it is. I'm number 5. Number 4, this has got to be his highest ranking of the year, outside of way earlier in the year. But number 4 is Cole. Because I think I was looking earlier, and I think Cole was in the top 3 at some point, maybe post-draft. I don't know. But, I mean, what can you say? I kind of take credit for this. Cole's now won 4 games in a row. He went from 3-6 to 7-6. And I say I take credit because I essentially talked Cole off the fantasy suicide ledge. Cole metaphorically was on the side of the bridge. In fact, he was already lowering himself down. If we were, I'm outside the league offices again, by the way, but if Cole, think about it like this, Cole, see the top of the roof here? Cole was literally hanging on like this onto the roof, and it was at the league office where he was doing it. And I pretty much went up there and I talked him down. I said, look, anything can happen. It's fantasy. You win 1 game and then all of a sudden, your whole perspective changes. Literally since I said that, he hasn't lost. So did I maybe, and one of those wins was against me this week. So did I unleash maybe something that I shouldn't have? As a manager, I would say yes. As a commissioner, I'd say nope. That's just me doing the hero's work that I do as commissioner of this league. Stuff that kind of gets swept under the radar, nobody really hears about, but kind of the dirty work of being commissioner. So, in a way, if Cole ends up somehow winning the championship, do I feel like he owes me a certain portion of the money? Yeah, I kind of do, because I, once again, talked him off. He was up on this ledge, and I talked him off. But it's kind of just hats off to Cole. I mean, he was in a spot where he pretty much had to win out, and that's what he's done. So Cole is number 4. Number 3 is Ben. Ben has got to be the most volatile person in the rankings for the committee all year. I mean, Ben has been, was he number 1 at one point? I think he was. He was 1 or 2 at some point, and then there was a time where he was 8th or 9th. He has really just been all over the map. But he has officially clinched a playoff spot. So congratulate, which I don't even know how, kind of, but I did as well, but Cole didn't, even though we have the same record according to the app. But Ben is one of the four who, according to ESPN, has clinched a playoff spot. Um, so you got to say hats off to him. He was a part of the trade this morning with Carter, which, once again, I think for this specific week helps Carter, but Ben doesn't need to win this week. I mean, it affects seeding if he loses, but he's in the playoffs, and now he's got JT in the playoffs. First round, he plays Seattle, so I don't love that. But, hey, it's JT, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, Ben's number 3. Now to the top 2. It did not change from last week. Number 2 is Moss. Number 1 is Caleb. Both have officially clinched a bye. But I guess actually no. Now that I'm thinking about this, they have not clinched a bye. If Evans beats me, one of them has to lose. But they're probably going to win a tiebreaker over Evans in points, right? Yeah. I mean, there's a scenario where Ben's not passing. You know what? Let me stop that. Let me wrap up the rankings, right? So those are the rankings. Gavin at 2, Caleb at 1. I just want to we'll wrap up the rankings, and now I kind of want to dig into these matchups and what's at stake. So now back to what I was just saying. We'll start with Evans and Moss, or I mean Caleb and Moss. They play this week. Now, like I said earlier, because I lost last week, does it kind of remove a lot of the stakes from that game? Yeah, because before it was looking like, I would sneak in and take one of those buys, and the loser of that game, would lose the buy. Now they're both pretty much guaranteed a buy, but because Evans and I play, in the scenario that Evans beats me, and let's say he has like a crazy game, like puts up one. Wow, it would have to be more than that. All right, let's say he puts up 160. I'm laughing about how unrealistic this is, but he puts up 160, and then I guess Moss loses to Caleb and puts up like 90. Ben could jump up and take that final bye, but first of all, I'm going to beat Ben, so this is a stupid discussion to have in the first place, but second of all, he's not putting up 160, so that was stupid. But me and Evans, our matchup, what is at stake is, the seeding in terms of like, I'm going to win any tiebreaker versus pretty much everybody that isn't Caleb, right? Because as it currently stands, Caleb has 1.5 more points scored than me on the season. He's 1589. I'm 1587.5. And then the next closest is like Moss at 1500. So it's like me and Caleb are way up here in points. Then it drops to Moss. Then it's like Evans, Jake's up there. Then it kind of spreads out. So I'm winning any tiebreaker. So if I fall, let's say, to 7-7, if I lost to Evans, I'd still, I'd win any tiebreaker versus any other 7-7 team. But, I guess Cole could win, jump me. So there's a world where I would be the 5 seed if I lost this week. Which is crazy because I could be the 5 seed with the most points scored in the league. But Um, I could be the 5 seed, and then because if Cole wins, he'll jump me in terms of record. Now that would totally shake things up because even though I'd be the 5 seed, nobody's trying to see my team. But the back half of this video has kind of been all over the place. So I guess let me now shift over to matchup of the week, right? Because so this is what sucks. The obvious one would have been Caleb and Gavin a week ago. Had I won, there would have been so much more stakes for this game. And then really like the runner-up game of the week would have probably been me versus Evans, because then there would be way more stakes for our game as well. But I didn't win, so now it kind of makes Caleb and Gavin are basically just playing for who gets the first, like who gets 1 seed, who gets 2 seed, which is important, but they're both, they're both guaranteed to buy. Takes a lot of the stakes out. Me and Evans have both clinched playoffs, so we're just fighting for seeding, so that's kind of out. So it comes down to, I think the obvious choice is Carter versus Dan as matchup of the week. The only problem with that is it's a matchup of the week, and they're both like need to win to get in, but at the same time, if Jake just beats Connor, then that whole thing doesn't even matter, right? I mean, if Jake beats Connor, they're both out because Jake's got way more points than both of them. He's going to win a tiebreaker. Well, I mean, Carter's only way in is, I mean, he's got to beat Dan, hope Jake loses, and then have more points than Jake. So outscore Jake by how much? He'd have to outscore Jake by 23 points this week and win, and Jake would have to lose to Connor. So that's a tall task for Carter, but I think it's got to be Dan and Carter because as it currently stands, they're sort of playing, to get in. And they're both just kind of rooting for Jake to lose and put up like not a lot of points, which if that's what you're rooting for the last few weeks, you've been pretty happy. So yeah. This is now hit 18 minutes. Now, part of me was like, should I just do rankings and make them shorter and then do another video and make it, playoff predictions and all that stuff? Obviously I didn't do that, but what's nice is I'll do what I did for playoffs last year. So like after this week, once playoffs really start, it won't really be power rankings anymore. It'll turn into like the commissioner's picks and, projections and all that kind of stuff for playoffs. So yeah, those are the rankings, and that was like rankings and then an extra like 7 minutes of kind of whatever you want to call that. So as you can see, I'm back outside the league offices. I think I'm getting more views because I have background on these videos, so I'm gonna just keep going with the backgrounds, keep blowing up the channel. But yeah, I mean, this is a massive week, guys, so see ya.